If your named range works perfectly inside one workbook, but breaks the moment you link to it from another file, you're not imagining things. Excel treats names differently once a reference crosses a workbook boundary. That's why you'll see errors like #ref, a name that can't be found, or a formula that silently points to the wrong place. The fix is not one magic checkbox. It's understanding what Excel is actually storing when you create a name. Some names are workbook scoped, some are sheet scoped, and some are created in tables or defined with formulas that don't travel well. Add in closed workbooks, network paths, and people renaming files, and links get fragile fast. In this walkthrough, you'll learn the real reasons named ranges fail across linked workbooks. More importantly, you'll learn how to build names that survive moves, renames, and collaboration. Once you know the rules, the errors stop feeling random. They become predictable. Next step. First, let's get clear on what a named range really is. A name is just a label that points to something. A cell, a range, a constant, or even a formula. Excel stores that label in a specific scope. If the scope is the workbook, any sheet can use it. If the scope is a worksheet, only that sheet can use it. And the same text name can exist on other sheets with different targets. Inside one workbook, Excel can often help you by guessing which name you meant. Across workbooks, Excel stops guessing. The external workbook must contain a name that matches exactly, and it must be visible at the scope Excel expects. Also, names can point to volatile formulas like offset, or dynamic arrays, or structured table references. Those can be valid, but they add complexity when another workbook tries to resolve them. So the big idea is simple. External references are stricter. They demand exact scope, exact spelling, and resolvable targets. Next step. The most common cause of failure is scope mismatch. You create a name on sheet 1, and Excel quietly makes it a sheet-level name. It works on sheet 1, so you assume it's global. Then another workbook tries to call it, and it can't see it. Workbook A might have sales total scoped to sheet 1, not the workbook. Workbook B tries to reference sales total as a workbook-level name, and Excel reports that the name doesn't exist. The tricky part is that Name Manager shows both types, and people don't notice the scope column. The fix is to recreate or edit the name so it's workbook scoped, or to reference it with the sheet qualifier when appropriate. But sheet-qualified external name syntax is easy to get wrong, and it's not as portable. In practice, if a name must be used by other workbooks, make it workbook scoped. That single decision prevents a lot of broken links. Next step. Next, the exact external reference syntax matters more than people expect. When you reference a name in another workbook, Excel typically stores something like file.xlsx name. If the workbook is closed, Excel may need the full path, and it may store it in the link. If the workbook is open, Excel can resolve the name in memory, and you don't notice the difference. That's why a link can work while both files are open, then fail when you reopen only one of them. Another gotcha is apostrophes and brackets when file names have spaces. If the file is called budget2026.xlsx, the quoting rules change. Excel is picky, and one missing quote can turn a valid name into text that can't be resolved. The practical approach is to build the link by selecting the named range from the other workbook, not by typing it. Then verify it still calculates with the source workbook closed. Next step. A different failure mode is file movement and renaming. A named range doesn't break by itself, but the link to the workbook that contains it can. If you move the source workbook to a new folder, or someone renames it, the external reference still points to the old location. Excel will often prompt to update links, but if it can't find the file, the name can't be resolved, and you get #ref.
Even worse, if it finds a different file with the same name in another folder, you can get a working link that points to the wrong data. The best defense is consistency. Keep linked workbooks in a stable folder structure. If you must move them, move the whole set together. And after any change, check the workbook's link list and update sources intentionally. Treat workbook links like dependencies in a project. If you change the dependency, you must update the reference. Next step. Now let's talk about names that point to formulas, not fixed ranges. A lot of people build dynamic named ranges using offset or indirect. Those can be useful, but they're fragile in linked scenarios.
Indirect is the biggest problem because it requires the source workbook to be open to resolve text into a reference. So a name defined as indirect sheet 1AA may work locally, but another workbook calling it will fail when the source is closed. Offset can work with closed workbooks more often, but it's volatile and can slow recalculation, especially across links. A more stable pattern is to use Excel tables and structured references, or to use index-based definitions for dynamic ranges. The key rule is avoid names that rely on text-to-reference conversion when you need cross-workbook reliability. If you inherit a model that uses indirect, expect link failures and plan a refactor. Next step. Another subtle issue is what the name points to. A range that later gets deleted, moved, or resized. If you define a name to refer to a specific block, then someone inserts columns, deletes rows, or replaces a sheet, Excel may update the name, or it may not, depending on how the change was made. If the names refers to becomes invalid, Excel can keep the name but change the target to #ref. Inside the same workbook, you might notice quickly. Across workbooks, it looks like the external reference is broken, when the real problem is the name definition itself. A good maintenance habit is to periodically audit Name Manager for names whose refers to contains #ref. Also watch for duplicate names that were created during copy-paste between files. Cleaning names feels boring, but it prevents mysterious downstream failures. Next step. Let's separate two things people mix up: named ranges and table names. Excel tables have their own naming system, like Table 1 or Sales Data. Those names work great inside a workbook with structured references. But across workbooks, structured references can be inconsistent, especially if the receiving workbook expects a range and not a table column reference. Also, if someone renames the table, your external formula may not update cleanly. If your goal is a stable external interface, consider creating a workbook-level named range that points to the table column you want to expose. That way, the other workbook references a simple name, and you can change the underlying table structure without breaking the consumer workbook. Think of it like an API. The table is your internal implementation. The named range is the public contract. That design mindset makes linked workbooks much more maintainable. Next step. Permissions and protected states can also cause name not working symptoms. If the source workbook is protected, or the sheet is protected, Excel may still allow reading values, but certain edits to names or recalculation behaviors can be restricted. In shared environments, the file might open read-only, or it might be blocked by security settings, like protected view. When that happens, Excel may not update external links, so your named range reference looks stale or broken. Another real-world issue is cloud sync conflicts, creating duplicate files with slightly different names. Your link might point to one copy, while you're editing another. The fix here is less about formulas and more about file hygiene. Make sure the source file opens normally, not in protected view. Confirm you're linking to the intended copy. And if the model is business critical, avoid ad hoc sharing methods that create duplicates. Next step. A big reason references fail is that Excel stores links at multiple layers. There's the formula text you see. There's also the workbook's internal link table, which tracks external workbooks and their paths. Sometimes you fix a formula, but the link table still points to an old location. So Excel keeps trying to resolve it. That's why two formulas that look identical can behave differently. The practical workflow is, first, confirm the named range exists in the source workbook and is workbook scoped. Second, confirm the names refers to as valid and not ref. Third, check the target workbook's list of external links and update the source path. Finally, force a full recalculation if needed, because Excel can cache results from external links. This sounds tedious, but it's a deterministic checklist. If you follow it in order, you stop guessing, and you isolate the exact layer that's failing. Next step. Let's talk about best practice design for linked models. If another workbook depends on your named ranges, treat those names as stable interface points. Keep them workbook scoped. Keep them simple. Prefer direct references to ranges or table columns. Avoid volatile functions unless you truly need them. And document the intent in the name itself, like input tax rate or output monthly revenue. Also, minimize the number of external links. It's better to expose a few well-designed named ranges than dozens of brittle ones. If you need many fields, consider consolidating them into an export sheet and name the export blocks. That reduces the chance that a structural change breaks consumers. The goal is not clever formulas. The goal is predictable references that survive normal editing. When you build that way, linked workbooks become boring. Next step. If you're inheriting a broken workbook, here's a quick triage sequence. Start by opening both workbooks at the same time. That removes the closed workbook variable and helps Excel resolve links. Next, go to the source workbook and verify the name is present, spelled exactly the same, and points to a valid range. Then go to the consuming workbook and rebuild one failing formula by selecting the named range from the source, so Excel writes the external syntax for you. After that works, close the source workbook and see if it still calculates. If it fails only when closed, suspect indirect, security restrictions, or a path issue. If it fails even when open, suspect scope mismatch or a missing name. This process turns a messy problem into a small set of yes or no tests, and each test maps to a specific fix. Next step. One last point. Sometimes the fix is to stop linking at the formula level. External links are convenient, but they're inherently fragile when many people touch the files. For critical reporting, a safer pattern is to pull data in a controlled way, then calculate locally. That could mean copying values on a schedule, using a dedicated export sheet, or using a data connection approach instead of cell-by-cell links. Named ranges still matter there because they define clean boundaries for what gets exported or imported. But you're reducing the number of live dependencies. The trade-off is freshness versus reliability. Live links update instantly, but break more easily. Controlled imports update less often, but are easier to validate. If your named ranges keep failing across workbooks, it may be a sign the model needs a more robust architecture, not just a formula tweak. Next step. So here's the core takeaway. Named ranges fail across linked workbooks for predictable reasons: scope mismatch, broken name definitions, fragile dynamic formulas, and links pointing to the wrong file path. If you remember one rule, make it this: any name meant for other workbooks should be workbook scoped and based on a straightforward reference. Then use a simple checklist to debug. Validate the name, validate the target, validate the link source. Once you adopt that mindset, you'll spend less time chasing ref and more time building models that other people can safely use. If you want more deep dives like this, subscribe. And for a quick reality check, leave a comment with your experience. Do your broken named range leaks happen more often because of scope issues or because files get moved and renamed? I'm always testing new ways to work smarter. Subscribe to see what workflow I'm breaking down next.